Okay, welcome back to the second hour of the Big Money Show. I'm Brian Brenberg, along with my electrifying co-host. Watch out, it might shock you. And with us for the hour, Prairie Operating Company EVP of Market Strategy, Lou Basenese, and Fox Business's Lauren Simonetti. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you. Be here. Hopefully it's a pleasure.
It's going to be a pleasure.
Watch They're electrified.
This. Just wait. Optimism running high on Wall Street, and investors are going all in. A new survey shows average cash holdings are at their lowest level since 1999 as traders pile into stocks. And right now, investor and executive confidence is hitting a 4-year high. Vice President J.D. Vance says working Americans are winning too.
When Joe Biden was president for 4 years, he took $3,000 out of your pocket. And in just 10 months of the president's leadership, we have put $1,000 back in your pocket. That's what that means. And that's just the beginning, my friends. That is just the beginning.
Okay, I kind of like this debate we got started a little bit last hour. You know, investors, executives, confidence seems to be rising or pretty high right now, Lou. But what does that mean for non-executives, folks who aren't spending every day investing in the markets? Are they winning as well?
Yeah, it's Jerry Maguire. Show me the money. I think the non-executives need to see the pay increases. We've talked about it before. Profit margins for S&P 500 companies over 13%. You want to see that? I see this survey talking about fund managers now being at their lowest level of cash as a contrarian indicator. Because if you look back to April or the beginning of this year, Wall Street was universally pretty bearish and tepid on their outlooks for the year. The forecasts were for maybe 8% growth. We've gotten double that. You know, the everyday investor has done much better than the main, you know, the Wall Street smart money because they've been fully invested, buying the dip all year. So this is a cautionary reading for me when Wall Street goes all in. I don't think it's a sign of conviction. I think it's capitulation. They're realizing, like, we missed out on some of this rally. We got to go all in. Yep.
Okay.
Everyone's talking about the AI bubble. It's what you said. Deflate. The word that's the key word. It doesn't have to pop. It could just slowly
I'm going to argue it deflates
There's
prices, actually. So that it's going to be a deflationary pull on prices, which is a good thing. I don't think we're in a bubble, but I think you put your finger on it as well. Messaging matters right now because everyday Americans, we all feel like everything's more expensive. And if the Republican and the presidents aren't out front saying, hey, wait a minute, look, these prices are going down. We're cutting drug costs. We're going to address health care costs next. You're not going to pay attention. You got to direct Americans' attention to the places where affordability is actually happening. And then also be, like you said, honest. Hey, there's more work to do. We inherited something. We've still got more work to do. Trust us. Here's proof we're doing it, but we've got a lot more lifting.
I think he will do exactly that. He will highlight their accomplishments. He will chart a path forward.
But that's something where I can look down and visually see my child has an investment account. Like, is that right? Not.
You know, for many people, it will be the first time. It's an introduction to the equity markets. It's a paradigm shift because if you look traditionally, institutions have been the majority of investors in the market. You're seeing that pendulum shift, about 30% retail. You add in this where kids grow up with an account that they can monitor with their parents. They learn investing alongside with them. You're bringing Main Street America right to Wall Street.
Historically, we've seen things like this where if you're giving that to somebody who doesn't know how to manage it or hasn't had that background and you're not giving them the tools on how to do it, they won't necessarily do it. And I can't remember who brought up this point once, but so we're pouring all this money into these baby accounts, that the president investment accounts, but does this sort of become the new proxy for Social Security in a way, in a bad way, that you keep having younger generations pouring in? They are encouraging, there are, you know, tax tax advantages if you have a summer job, if your parents want to contribute. So all of a sudden, let's just say people do take advantage and this money pours into these accounts. That is fueling the stock market, as we've talked about with Charles Payne. One of the reasons that the market keeps going up is because every 2 weeks or every Friday when people get paid, those portions of 401k deposits go right into the market. So are we sort of fueling our own?
I would say yes if earnings weren't moving higher, but yes, I think it is a long-term consideration. But it's no different than people not knowing what 401ks were, and you have to. That's educational process on them.
Lou, were you the one who was making the case that
you can't delineate
we're
borders
talking
like
about
a state
the Commerce
for AA.
Clause, right? that if this crosses states,
Yeah,
then
interstate
that's when
commerce.
the federal government has the
Correct.
control. And you know the Commerce Clause more than I do.
So I think that's a big issue, but I think the other issue here, there's a lot of guilt because we got social media so wrong, right? We messed it up. We hurt our kids. We didn't make the platforms liable for the content. We didn't exclude them in Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. So we're being cautious here, but it just doesn't work. I mean, you know, Bernie Sanders is out there saying like, hey, let's stop everything. The starting gun's been fired. The race is underway. Leadership is changing every week. We don't have the advantage to say, oh, let's pause now. We have to put like guardrails in retroactively.
But Elon Musk had also said, let's pause. And then he realized you can't unscramble that egg. It's out there.
But you can raise all these concerns, and Republicans are in states like Texas and say we want to see it at the table. But he's going way too
on that point alone, on the jobs, like a data center creates 10,000 jobs by some
blue-collar
jobs. So, like, I don't understand his attack angle on going after the data centers for AI.
There is an argument to be made that technology has a very, very dark side, and it's literally changed the way when you think about kids that are on tablets, they're on social media, they're growing up with this 24/7. It literally has changed the way their minds have developed. So the lawsuit is arguing that this should be like tobacco, where you can put a warning label on it.
Love it. Yep.
Right? The critics are arguing that that falls apart because cigarettes inherently are deadly when used as intended, but food is not. I would actually argue back on the other side and say, don't we all know that 100-year-old person who smoked a pack a day and drank scotch and lived to be 100? Some people smoke and they live, and some people smoke and they die. The same would be true with cancer, obesity, heart disease, diabetes that are linked to food, to consuming certain food products. Okay, have at it.
You want it first or you want it? I mean, I'm a data-driven guy, so I look at this, and individual food ingredients that are harmful in these processed foods, we know that. There's unequivocal data that says this. These are not good. We see the results in the hospitals. It's like a poison. We should remove it. The government has the absolute right to protect the citizens of the world, of the country, just like other countries do and don't permit them in their foods. These are poisons. Whether they're very small doses that don't have an impact for 10s or 20 years, you still have to do that. I mean,
is this business, putting business interests first? Like in the previous segment, I was talking about AI and saying we've got to have the guardrails. They are important to a certain degree because, like we saw with social media, you don't want to see the AI companies put profits first and forget everything else.
But they did when they put these ingredients in, because the motivation to put these ingredients in was to extend shelf life.
Sure, that's
Plain
a
and
business
simple.
decision.
Preserve profitability, maintain, record revenues, and say, here's all this junk food that's going to last forever. I mean, a Twinkie can, I think there's
like indestructible,
right? So you have to draw the line. If I said it's poison, do you want the government to say, well, if it's poison, you should still let me drink it if I choose to? Put a warning label on it.
So
yes, is not healthy, but that tastes good. When a lot of them are already voluntarily changing the ingredients and the additives in the way that they make the food to make the labels cleaner so you can pronounce more of the ingredients in them. There is personal responsibility in all of this.
I think these are deadly chemicals that they're putting in foods, right? It's the same thing with social media. The companies knew, Meta knows it's very bad, especially for preteen girls. Something needs to be done about it. When you know something's harmful, the government needs to step in and say.
And I would just say, you've brought this up before in other countries. If you compare the ingredients of, say, I'm just going to say peanut butter. We have 20 ingredients in ours and they have 5 in theirs. I would love to see what the ingredients of peanut butter in this country were in the 50s.
5. Really?
Compared to what they are now.
It was peanut butter and salt.
So these foods have modified because they're trying to preserve them. They're trying to make them more cheaply. This was one of the things I also said when the cost of food went up during COVID, that we're going to see results of this in time as people get sicker because companies, restaurants, everybody that was making any kind of food tried to make it cheaper, and that meant cheaper ingredients.
So throw something at you. I feel like, I don't know how resilient I am, but whatever resilience I have, I think didn't really happen in a classroom. It happened on a football field or sitting on the bench or missing a big shot in a game or maybe making a big shot in a game. But I don't think it was in a classroom, Lou. Can you do this in a classroom?
No, I think it's everyday life. And look, I'm admittedly biased against a program like this because I grew up in the generation, like many of us, is suck it up, Buttercup, right? Life's not fair. Get over it, right? Like you hear these things where it's like you figure it out. But I think you put a finger on, it's the absence of social interaction in a lot of
Yeah.
ways that does not teach the soft skills, because instead of engaging in a conversation with your peers, you're on a device. I mean, I've seen that.
Playing football and riding bikes and hiking.
Well, they're
doing
also
things
all
like
getting,
that.
participation awards instead of having a winner and a loser and working through resiliency. Like, I didn't get the job promotion. Well, how do you handle that? What's
Or
your
the
response?
school's afraid to give you an F because they might hurt your
Because
feelings.
mom and dad
And
will
the
call.
school or the company or the parent or the coach has to say, you didn't get it because you weren't fast enough, because you weren't smart enough. Like honesty. And the kid has to be able to absorb that and say, okay, this is what we can do together going forward to get you where you need to be.
And Brian, to your point, a little bit about how you learned resiliency. I think a lot of it has to do with being at home, what you're touching on as well, Lauren, which is when I come home and I have a disappointment, how do my parents address this with me? How do they tell me to move forward? You dust yourself off, you pick up, and you move forward. Instead, what we're doing now is we're coddling kids and we're not allowing that disappointment to happen. Therefore, they will never learn the resiliency to be able to bounce back from it.
Yeah,
I mean, kudos to the PwC for trying to do something about it, right?
So
I mean,
you
6
like
months. No, I mean, it's a tool, right? Could it work? Could it be helpful? Absolutely. Is it needed? Yeah, probably.
Well, they're
Brian
shining
told
a
me
light
I
on
was
it.
crazy when I told my 2-year-old, like, put yourself to bed, figure it out. He was like, how dare you? She's 2. It's resilience training, Brian.
I still think that's crazy.
You need sleep training.
It's independence.